Right then, we're a week on from the last video. I thought I'd just give a quick update. The front end is a lot more off than it was. I've now managed to get the offside wing off and exposing the bodges and the rust and most things that you'd expect on a nearly 40-year-old Land Rover, but there are some bodges, so I've come to the conclusion that the conversion isn't that great, really. Engine conversion, it's in there, it runs, yeah, you've seen it start, it does run, but it's not very well executed, if I'm honest with you. For example, the bottom hose here has been taken straight off the Discovery. See how it's kinked? Not good. Yeah, that'll reduce the water flow. The turbo, the downpipe's been fitted. Yeah, it's got a, I think it's a Steve Parker conversion downpipe, which was they've only just gone bust, but they were a really popular manufacturer of stuff to help convert older Land Rovers to TDI. But the studs here that hold the downpipe on mean that they're so long that if you wanted to get the downpipe off, you couldn't, because look how tight it is against the bulkhead, the footwell there. So the only way to get the exhaust downpipe on or off is to take the engine out, or certainly lift the engine up and moving forward, which isn't ideal. So yeah, it's just been shoved in there basically. This cone filter that I've spoken about, yeah, that's crap. The intercooler pipes, these are Steve Parker conversion intercooler pipes, but the pipe here that comes out of the turbo, the boost pipe to the bottom of the intercooler, when the inner wing's fitted, it's so tight up against it, I don't think you'd be able to get the pipe off with the inner wing in place. So I'm going to clock the turbo 90 degrees, which is quite a recognised thing to do. To make the boost pipe work easier to get to it, you have to jig around with the wastegate actuator and other bits and pieces, but yeah, I just want to make a better job of the conversion, really. The wiring is currently horrendous. The side repeaters were joined on literally like that, with insulation around them. With insulation tape around them. No wonder they didn't work. The wiring, I mean, it's Land Rover wiring, it's what you'd expect, but it's yeah, it's terrible. So I've got some work to do there, but I'm not, you know, I quite like wiring, really. It doesn't really scare me. The footwells, the bulkhead there, you can see corrosion. It's bad. You get your hand through it. And this is the passenger side of the bulkhead. I've poked and scraped at that and made it much worse than it was, but at least it's exposed everything. Tried to get the near side door off. That one span, that one span, that one came out, that one span. So yeah, as you'd expect. The good thing about Land Rovers is you can pretty much dismantle them inside and they'll still run it. This is still running. You wouldn't think it. I've got all the dash out, exposed the military fuse box there. It's no different to the civilian one, I don't think, particularly. It's just a slightly simpler fuse box because there's less ancillaries on the military ones. There's no cigarette lighter, there's no rear wiper, I don't think, originally. I think this was probably a hard top back in the day, but it's obviously now a soft top. Yeah, so if I switch the lights on, you can see the instrument panel lights still work. There they are. But the floors are crap. Where the floor pans come down, whoever's owned this before in previous years has cut holes where there was rot. You see how floppy that is now. Cut holes where there was rot, and they repaired it using the silicon sealant and a prayer technique of bodywork, where they just basically cut a piece of steel out, which is over here. Cut this bit of steel out and stuck a load of silicon sealant on it. There, you can see that there, and then glued that on, and then secured it with tech screws, roofing screws, basically. Secured it all the way around, which has meant that where the original fixings were, for example there, this is for the tunnel trim, I've just drilled through the metalwork there with tech screws, and that's pretty much the same all the way along. Look, there's one there, there's one there, they're all the way around. So it's been bodged, this poor thing. It's had a lot of bodging, and the quality of the engine conversion and the quality of these footwell repairs, kind of is indicative of how bodgy it's all been. But it's rescuable, which I'm pleased about. I'm not sure about the bulkhead yet. It's flaky and flimsy, and there's a lot of air where there should be steel. Past the driver's side's worse. So The other good thing about Land Rovers I've discovered is that pretty much everything that you take off is in the back. So that's the lower dash, which I've taken off obviously to access the wiring. Old sticker about the diff lock there. As you see, the military version, there's no ancillaries, although there are still the holes behind where a clock or something might go. I'm going to do some upgrades to this to make the airflow better. Yeah, that's all the stuff that's taken off in the back. Come round, I'll show you the driver's side. This is worse. So this has had even more silicone and a prayer repairs. The outrigger I showed you, I think, on the first video, it's got a badly welded repair. It's pretty grotty, that. I think it's fairly strong, structurally sound, but pretty grotty. The bottom of the bulkhead here is all gone. It's solid there, but you know, they all go here. Which does make me wonder what to do with it, whether it's worth biting the bullet and putting a new one on, because the engine's going to come out. It's not a great load of work to change the bulkhead. Obviously it's quite a bit to it, but not horrendous. You can see there where there would have been a hand throttle originally, that hole that's been skillfully gaffer taped over, that would have been a hand throttle, probably to set the throttle if it was doing wading, or if it was maybe had radios in it. This might have been a FFR at some point, although it's not on the chassis plate. It just says it's a cargo version. The handbrake, like I said to you, doesn't work, doesn't do anything, so that's on the to-do list. Yeah, there's lots of things that I want to swap. I was going to keep the original shocks and springs and uprights, shock covers there, but I'm not going to. I'm going to change those, make it look nice underneath, treat and clean the chassis, paint the chassis as best I can. And I've discovered that the gearbox was reconditioned in 1998 in the military. So God knows how many miles that's done since then. It's got the usual rattly lay shaft when it's in neutral, and it crunches into third gear synchro mesh, which I think is dead common. Yeah, that's pretty much where we are as of today. There's loads of stuff that I've taken off. Most things are broken. This trim that holds the cluster in place is broken. I'm going to try and see if I can source a replacement or a new one of those, potentially. See how it's all cracked down there. It just doesn't do a very good job of holding the cluster anymore. The driver's door doesn't close properly. I've redone the latch, but it's still not low enough, so I need to sort that. There's loads to do, but yeah, starting to get rid of the things that are crap and give us something good to go at. Thank you.